Good to see everybody out. Romans 12. Let's start there. Romans chapter 12. Hope everybody's worked past the emotional stage of the digital fast and been working through those devotions. Those are really good, thought-provoking. Been enjoying the discussions around the lunch table in the afternoons. And so let's dive into Romans 12. I went back and listened to when we covered Romans on Sunday mornings, and I think it was 2021, I think. And the whole intro to Romans 12 on that Sunday, it was just kind of like this whole relief of we're finally to these two verses. And I remember, because Brendan was talking about how excited he is to get to Romans 12, 1 and 2 through that whole study, and finally we had gotten there. And so we're just going to skip over the first 11 chapters. We're going to start in chapter 12. But we're just going to cover, mainly focus on verse number 2 tonight. And keep your Bibles handy because I am going to give you a few verses that we can look at and work through tonight. So Romans 12, 1 and 2. Here we go. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. So the focus on the two words tonight is on the word conformed and the word transformed. So let's look at the word conformed first. Really quick, just a little bit of a definition. So funny. I really appreciate the effort that some are giving to the digital fast. And last night in our house, somebody was trying to figure out where Einstein was born. Was it born? Where's he from? And everybody was like, we're not going to use our phones to look this up. And so we were looking through all the dictionaries and encyclopedias on the shelves and in the schoolroom, and we couldn't find one book that could tell us where Einstein was from. So, we just had to be okay with not knowing, And anyway, so that's kind of funny. But the word conform. So let's look at the word conform for just a moment. The word conform means to fashion or to shape one thing like another. So to fashion or to shape one thing like another. So something takes the shape. Just think of slime in a glass. It takes the form of the inside of that glass. You throw it somewhere else and it takes the form of something else, right? So conform. The word transform, on the other hand, means to change the form or the nature of something. So the word transform and conform are two different things. So transform is to change form or nature. So let's think about a chameleon for just a moment. So a chameleon is something that conforms, right? Chameleon conforms to its surroundings. So the chameleon's surroundings play a role in determining the color it will change to. But the chameleon itself is ultimately responsible for making the necessary adjustments. Does anybody have a chameleon in here? My aunt has 13 chameleons as pets, and I was thinking about bringing one in here, but that would have been a whole to-do. But anyway, chameleons are pretty cool, right? Because they can adjust to what's around them. But ultimately, the chameleon itself is responsible for making the necessary adjustments. So when the Bible tells us not to be conformed to this world, it's saying don't be a chameleon. Don't just match your surroundings, right? But it says be transformed. So if we think of a butterfly, very obvious example, right? We see the stages of what happens with a caterpillar as it forms its cocoon or chrysalis, I guess it is, right? And a couple weeks of life as a caterpillar, then it's in this chrysalis. And as it's in the chrysalis, in the relation to the digital fast, I thought, this was a disconnected time. It's a caterpillar, and then it disconnects from the world for a couple weeks while it turns into the body itself breaks down. And what happens is the body of the butterfly is reformed. And then, of course, the butterfly, as it goes through this, it struggles to break out of that cocoon. But that struggle is really necessary for life. If you break the cocoon open for the butterfly, it will die. Because that is basically a workout, a pre-workout before it actually goes into its life of flight. So the muscles and the wings get a workout trying to break through that cocoon that is necessary for life. So just really interesting to think about the struggle that's involved in this transformation. Seems like it can kind of relate to life. Maybe there's been a little bit of a struggle over the last couple of weeks. That's okay. Transformation requires some struggle. But transformation also is different than just conforming and just different than matching your surroundings. So in our own life, transformation takes radical surrender. And a phrase that I've been thinking about recently is, so it goes back to our Romans study in 2021, that transformation is a good plan of a good God. It's a good plan of a good God, even knowing that the struggles are there, right? As in the life of this butterfly. The struggles are there in transformation, but it is the good plan of a good God. So that is what transformation takes in our own life, is a surrender to that. Many times we find ourselves, though, surrendering our time and our attention to things that are conforming us. Things that we're conforming to because we're giving our time and attention to something else. And this is what happens. Sometimes we talked about idolatry in the last couple of weeks as well, right? And so sometimes our time and attention can be given to something to where idols start to conform us into something different than what God intends. This can happen sometimes when we fear missing out on something, not experiencing something or not feeling something. Anybody ever heard of the word FOMO? Yeah, FOMO. Yeah, so let's talk about FOMO for just a minute. Let's think about some examples of FOMO. In social media, a teenager feels left out and anxious when they see pictures on social media of their friends having fun without them. In a social circle, a young adult feels pressured to attend every social event they're invited to, even if they're tired, not in the mood, because they're afraid of missing out on the fun. What about at work? A busy professional stays late at work every night and skips family events because they're afraid of falling behind or missing out on opportunities for advancement. Even in travel, maybe a traveler spends more time taking pictures and posting on social media than actually enjoying their trip because they're afraid of missing out on an opportunity to share their experience with others. That's FOMO. Anybody ever experienced FOMO with anything? Anybody fear missing out on something? I asked a few people in my home what they fear missing out, and a variety of different answers. I loved one answer. It really touched my heart. And they said they fear missing out on church. They hate missing church. And so that was cool. But, there's a variety of different things that we fear missing out on. But, there's an alternative to FOMO, and that is JOMO. Let's talk about JOMO for a minute. That's the joy of missing out. So let's think about these same scenarios, but through a different lens. A teenager chooses to take a break from social media and instead spends quality time with their family, feeling refreshed and centered. Someone decides to stay in and enjoy what may be restful to them. We've been hearing and learning recently that oftentimes if you work with your mind through the day, you find work with your hands restful. And the opposite, if you work with your hands during the day, many times you find work with your mind very restful. I'm the kind of guy that I enjoy getting out in my garage. I enjoy getting out in the yard after I work through the day and getting dirty and working with my hands. I like doing a project that's restful for me. So the joy of missing out. What about work-life balance? A busy professional sets boundaries at work and leaves on time, making time for family, hobbies, exercise, etc. And then traveling. A traveler disconnects from social media and fully immerses themselves in their trip, taking in the sights, sounds, and flavors without worrying about capturing the perfect picture. Can we even imagine taking a trip without having our phone out taking pictures? What about being at a concert without taking a video? Can you just imagine? And then there's all the YouTube users that watch other people at concerts. It's interesting how we fear missing out on things, but it's really, really freeing when we can accept and when we can work to miss out on something and find the joy in that. Recently on Sunday, I was talking to somebody in the foyer here, and they said that they had deleted their final social media platform. They didn't even just delete the app. They actually deleted their account, which was like extra, overachiever, right? So they deleted their last social media account. They deleted all their news applications, anything. It's just utility. They made their smartphone dumb. And he said that, and somebody at work just the other day said, hey, did you hear about this that happened? And he said it was some big event. I forget what he said it was, but he said, I hadn't heard about it. And I was like, I'm okay with that. It's okay when we start feeling that freedom of like, I don't have to know everything. So FOMO begins with the word fear. So let's talk about the word fear for just a minute. Fear is something that God doesn't intend for us. Anybody take a guess at what the opposite of fear is? Unfear. I like that. Unfear. No fear? Peace. Okay, that's a good one. Hope. Good, I like that. Joy. Yeah. Yeah, love that. Trust. Okay. All right, good. You're like, are we getting it right? Are we getting it right? Tell us. Yeah, courage. Good. That goes along with the correct word, guys. No, confidence. Confidence. This is according to Google on my computer, not on my phone when I was preparing for this. But anyway, the direct antonym for fear is confidence. Right? Confidence is what God has designed us for. Confidence in Him and who He has made us to be. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." What about Isaiah 41:10? "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Philippians 4:11 through 13. "Not that I am speaking in being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound in any and every circumstance. I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me." Lastly, Proverbs 3:5 and 6, very familiar verse. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." God has designed us for confidence in Him and who He is and who He has created us to be. He's not created us to fear missing out on things. If there is anything we should fear missing out on, is His plan for us, right? We should fear missing the plan and the design that He has made us, which, that is up to our surrender. So joy of missing out is an emotionally intelligent antidote for FOMO, and is about being present and being content with who you are, who Christ is, and where you're at in life. So again, going through some ideas about JOMO, let's think about this. What JOMO, the joy of missing out, allows us to do. It allows us to enjoy human connection. Real human connection, not faux human connection through social media, but real human connection. Being intentional with your time. Practice wisdom in saying no and pursuing a better yes. Remember, a fast is not just about saying no to something. It's about replacing it with something that's better. JOMO allows us to enjoy silence, solitude, and stillness. Has anybody found it really difficult to be bored in the last couple of weeks? Anybody? Yeah? Anybody found it like really difficult? Like, what do I do with my time? Right? That can be challenging. That can be difficult. But JOMO allows us to start enjoying that silence and that solitude. JOMO also allows us to be with God before doing for God, which is a very common statement around here right now, and something that is very thought-provoking, being with God before doing for God. There's a quote from Pete Scazzaro that I want to share with us tonight and want to close with here. "Success, according to Scripture, is becoming the person God calls you to become and doing what God calls you to do in His way and according to His timetable." That's God's design for us, right? He wants us to be who He's created us to be. And according to His timetable. That's the hard part, right? Waiting on God to let His plan come into play. Allowing Him to open that door, close that door, waiting on God's time is really difficult. Now, guys, this goes right along with our focus on the joy of missing out. There is joy and there's freedom to miss out on things that are distracting us. Missing out on things that may be taking our time and attention away from being with God, becoming the person God has called us to become, and doing what God has called us to do in His way and in His time. So there's a lot of things we can find joy in, a lot of things that God has given us to find joy in. And so we're going to watch a video, but then we're going to, again, sit as families. If you're by yourself or you don't have your full family with you, get with your family. People that are alone, ones or twos, get with a bigger group. Somebody adopt a few people for a few minutes, and let's have a good discussion. Goes right along with that, finding joy in that God has given us in life and choosing that. But let's watch the video. Here we go.
The Kims were a pretty typical 21st century family living in South Korea. They met online, got married, and had a baby girl. But that's where the Kims' online Cinderella story ends. Their baby girl was born premature and cried almost constantly. Wanting an escape from their wailing infant, the Kims went online and adopted a virtual daughter. One day, while the Kims were at an online cafe, they returned home to a tragedy. While they were taking care of their online daughter, their real flesh and blood daughter had passed away. They were so busy nurturing their digital daughter that their human daughter died from malnutrition and dehydration. Now, I'm guessing no one you know has been so sucked into technology that someone actually died. But I'm guessing you know plenty of folks who lose themselves in technology. I work with a fantastic team at the Fuller Youth Institute that studies teenagers. And let me tell you about a generation that eats and breathes technology. 58% of this generation own a desktop computer. 61% own a laptop. 18% own either a tablet or an e-reader. But the real king of technology, as you can guess, is the device in their pocket. 88% of this generation own a cell phone, and when asked to describe their cell phone in one word, they said awesome, great, good, love, excellent, convenient, useful. Now, you might think some of those words don't sound very adolescent, especially the words convenient and useful. That's because the generation I'm talking about isn't teenagers. I'm talking about adults. Are young people avid users of technology? You bet. But the best data suggests while young people may be digital natives, we adults are fast adapting digital immigrants. 83% of young people are on social media. So are 77% of their parents. The average young person interacts with the screen 11 hours a day. That's a lot. But for adults, it's 9 hours a day. So before we as adults judge teenagers for their fast texting thumbs and seemingly permanent earbuds, we need to be honest with ourselves. Because see, what you and I and the Kim family that I described, and probably the nearest 16-year-old, share in common are two things. Number one, we use a lot of technology. And number two, while technology is a blessing and helps us go deep and wide in relationships, like all good things, there's a dark side. And technology can cause us to become numb, to lose connection with our present environment, to lose touch with those most important to us, and even to lose touch with ourselves. Now, before you dismiss all parallels between us and the Kim family, please heed the words of William Saltan. William Saltan is the tech reporter from Slate magazine who covered the death of the Kim's daughter. Saltan writes, "Every time you answer your cell phone in traffic, squander hours on YouTube, text a colleague during dinner, or go to TV to escape, you're neglecting others around you. You're letting technology make other worlds even more compelling." Researchers have studied what happens to our brain when we use technology. And parts of our brain literally shut down or become numb to accommodate the new stimulation from the technology. Researchers studied this by asking a pretty simple question. Does a triangle have three sides? Now, I'm guessing all of us in this room can answer that question. Even the non-math fuzzy people can answer that question today. But then scientists put drivers in simulations where they paired driving maneuvers with talking on their phone, and they monitored brain activity. When drivers were turning left into oncoming traffic and answering really simple questions on their phone, like does a triangle have 3 sides, their brain activity shifted. They literally became numb to their environment. They became numb to other cars, and they became numb to pedestrians. Some folks concerned with this numbing are going on digital diets, short bursts of time where they refrain from using technology. Lori Leibovitz from the Huffington Post describes a 1-week vacation she took where she told her kids, if you see me doing anything on my iPhone other than taking pictures, take my phone away from me. Her kids were thrilled. But she described that going a week without technology created a bit of an existentialist crisis for her. But then once she settled in, she found it exhilarating to use her hands to build sandcastles instead of tap a screen. She writes hauntingly, for the first time in I don't know how long, I was really seeing my kids, and they were relishing being seen. Her technology had made her so numb that only when technology was removed could she actually see her kids. You see, this is why the phrase surfing the internet is so very appropriate. Because while technology is great in many ways, and in many ways brings depth, in other ways it causes us to skim over the surface of our relationships, experiences, and even our own feelings. Some true stories. A 17-year-old sleeps with a cell phone every night on her pillow. This is not unusual behavior for teenagers, by the way. She sleeps with a cell phone every night on her pillow. She's hoping to get that middle of the night text that shows her someone, anyone is thinking of her. Technology helps her cope with her ongoing loneliness. A widower every night as he's having dinner watches TV, watches the news. Technology helps him become a little bit numb to his pervasive grief. Parents who are so overwhelmed and frustrated by what's happening to their families go to Facebook for a bit of cheer. They become spin masters, distracted from the present by all the energy it takes to come up with clever Facebook-worthy posts. As one grandmother told me about her daughters, I see how my daughters are interacting with their kids, and then I see what they post on Facebook. What they post is nothing like what's really happening. Personally, technology helps me deal with my addiction to accomplishment. When I start to feel a little anxious, when I start to feel a little insecure, my ability to send a few texts or emails is like a warm blanket, a codependent, dysfunctional blanket. If you're like me, you've even sensed this tension with technology here at Q. On the one hand, I love how technology helps me keep in touch with you, and I've been texting about where we're going to meet for meals or breaks. I've been enjoying following the Twitter stream. But on the other hand, even that engagement with social media, not to mention the stream of emails that come from me from the outside world, have been a distraction to me here at Q. It was interesting sitting in the balcony this morning after the Brilliance led this wonderful worship music set. My whole row sat down, and guess what we did? We got out our cell phones, the entire row of us. Here's how twisted our tendency to use technology has become. As a speaker, I'm kind of hoping that you're at least somewhat focused on me. But it would also be fine with me if you wanted to tweet a little bit about what we're talking about here, because that has become a bit of an unspoken goal for speakers. So here I am doing a talk on how technology removes us from the present. Well, I'm simultaneously hoping that you'll remove yourself from the present for a few moments to send 140 characters about how technology removes us from the present. As we think about how technology affects us across the generations, senior adults, adults, and young people, there's one phrase that comes to mind: numb and number. You have my permission to tweet that if you would like. Technology itself is boasting about how it helps us do so much at the same time. We're going to look at a current AT&T ad praising multitasking.
What's better, doing 2 things at once or just one?
Two.
You sure?
I am absolutely positive. 2 times is awesome. The thing I can do is wave my head and wave.
That's amazing. I've never seen anything like that.
Look, I can do it.
Hold on, I'm watching this.
I'm getting dizzy.
It's not complicated. Doing 2 things at once is better. And only AT&T's network lets you talk and surf on your iPhone 5.
So for kids and adults, it's considered valuable to talk and surf. So here I am ignoring my present to talk to you on the phone. But then I'm ignoring you on the phone so I can go online. Technology helps me become numb like exponentially to the second power. The current cover of Atlantic Monthly magazine describes the touchscreen generation, meaning preschoolers. And it profiles parents of preschoolers who use pass-back technology, meaning they pass or they loan their iPads to their 3, 4, and 5-year-olds so their children can explore educational apps. Now, the exact educational merit of the apps has yet to be really proven, but it lessens our guilt as parents if our kids are learning letters and numbers and colors. As we think about how generation is extending younger and across the generations, we're going to need grander and faster technology. We're going to need more gadgets. One such gadget on the horizon is Google Glass. Google Glass is a pair of glasses that has a video screen embedded in it. And using this video screen, you can take pictures and videos, send texts and emails, all while going about your day-to-day business. The cost of Google Glass is $1,500, but it's expected to come down this year. I suggest that how you feel about Google Glass, and as I'm describing that, if that's something you want or abhor, is a bit of a litmus test for how you feel about technology reaching into your present. Now, while the main focus of this talk is on technology, there are interesting parallels in the world of psychiatric medicine. I have my PhD in practical theology, not neurology. But I know this, the brain is an organ. And like all organs, it often needs medicine to be corrected. Having said that, we need to reflect on when and why we use psychiatric medicines for all generations. 2 weeks ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention revealed some fairly alarming statistics. 1 in 5 teenage boys are now being diagnosed with ADHD, as are 11% of school-age children. 2/3 of those who are diagnosed also receive a prescription for medicine. Now, Edward Hollowell is a psychiatrist and faculty member at Harvard who agrees with me that there is a definite biological cause to ADHD. But he also suggests that there's an environmentally triggered cluster of syndromes that resembles ADHD called attention deficit trait. And here's what Hollowell from Harvard writes. Like the traffic jam, attention deficit trait is an artifact of modern life. As our minds fill with noise, feckless synaptic events signifying nothing, the brain gradually loses its capacity to attend fully and thoroughly to anything. Now let's look at that phrase, our minds filling with noise. Is it possible that the way technology fills our mind is at least in some way contributing to our cultural challenge in paying attention? Now, I need to clarify, I am pro-technology. I use it every day. I'm not calling for the elimination of technology, nor am I calling for us to boycott psychiatric medicine. I'm not even necessarily saying we should use less of either. But I want each of us to imagine at the end of our life when we're welcomed into the kingdom by our Savior. In the midst of all the wonderful things we're going to experience, we're ushered into our own media room. And in our individual media room, there's a comfortable couch, there's cozy blankets and pillows, there's all the Starbucks or Pete's if you prefer, all the Junior Mints and popcorn you could want for free and with no calories. And you're told sitting in this media room that you're going to watch a video. The video is a compilation of all the moments in your life when you were fully present, fully attentive to what was happening, what you were feeling, and who you were with. In the midst of this talk on technology and how it can cause us to become numb, I want to ask you this question. How long is your video? How many scenes will there be of you relishing life to the fullest, not numb and not distracted? At least young people use technology to stay in touch with those in their relational core. We adults often use technology to stay in touch with those on our relational fringes. We use Instagram and Pinterest to stay in touch with those across the country and world and ignore those sitting across the table. Parents, please hear this. 28% of teenagers think their parents are addicted to their cell phones. 21% of teenagers wish their parents used their cell phones a lot less. I don't want my 3 kids' primary image of me to be with my head down on my phone or laptop. It's not just about how attentive we are to each other. What about how attentive, how available are we to God? As you think about this video at the end of your life, how many scenes will there be of you completely ready to hear what Jesus is trying to say to you, not numb, but fully alive? In Screwtape Letters, C.S. Lewis describes the strategy and tactics of Screwtape, a senior devil. Screwtape's whole job is to thwart the word of God. One day, one of the men he was assigned to was on the verge of a major spiritual breakthrough, a breakthrough that was 20 years in the making. Screwtape thought, I got to stop this. I know what I'll do. I'll distract him. So he planted a thought in the man's mind. After all, it was about time for lunch. So with lunch on the man's mind, he stood up, walked out of the room, walked out onto the street in search of a sandwich. The spiritual moment was lost. Now, regardless of your theology of demons, isn't it possible that technology is not only making us numb to each other in some ways, but also could be making us a little numb to God? Just as we're on the verge of our own spiritual breakthrough, we get that ping of a text or our phone rings and we feel like we have to take the call and the spiritual moment is lost. Earlier, I asked you to imagine this video at the end of your life, and how long will it be when you're fully present? But let's zoom in a little closer. What about in 2013? What about in April? Or how long will it even be today? You see, I love technology. I just don't want it to steal time from my video. So I'm changing my habits at home. One of the elements I love about my job at the Fuller Youth Institute is there's so much work I can do from home, and it's a flexible schedule for me as a mom. But that also means the tentacle of my job extends into my family. But now when my kids walk in the door, I shut the cover of my laptop. It tells them that they are more significant than me, and probably more importantly, it tells me that they are more significant than the work that I'm doing. I want my video to have so many scenes of me with my husband and kids, too many to count. This past weekend, I accidentally left my cell phone in a hotel room in Philadelphia. And lest you be worried, the conference where I was speaking overnighted it to me. But it was an interesting experiment in not having my phone. At first, I was freaking out. My heart was pounding, my hands were sweating. And this weekend was really strange. Like I had to print out directions. I used my home phone. I mean, how 90s is that? But I gotta say, I was more present and attentive to my friends, family, and congregation when I wasn't worried about my phone. Parents, you might want to try what one family I know does, that when the parents and the teenagers walk in the door, they put all their phones in a basket in the living room. Even the friends' teenage children do that. Actually, the kids have come to like it because they're actually focused on who they're with. You might want to try what my brother does. When he goes out to eat, he and his friends and colleagues put all their phones on a stack in the center of the table. If anyone reaches for their phone before the bill comes, that person has to cover the entire tab. You can try that at lunch today. Maybe get a free meal out of this talk. So often, as was said yesterday, we in the church are known for what we're against. Let's be for something. Let's be for using technology and being present. I think we followers of Jesus across the generations can have the best, longest, and most exhilarating videos of all.
All right. That's great. All right, I'm going to invite Allie up here. She's going to take us through our activity for the night. So if you're not sitting with your family, go ahead and move and sit with your family. And if you are alone, go find someone and sit with them. Or if you see someone that's by themselves, go and sit with them. Invite them into your group.
First week was basically focusing on detaching from your device. Anybody struggle with that? I know I definitely did. We had some frustrating days in our house where it was like, oh, we can't use it. The second week, this past week, was kind of geared toward discover. Okay, so if I can't stare at this phone, what is there to do? And this week coming is probably one of the most exciting weeks, I think, and it's on delight. And so that's what our activity tonight is going to be on delighting. So on page 106, if you have your book, it's called Design for Delight. And it says, as you move closer, this is the last paragraph, to the conclusion of this digital fast, it will be important to begin thinking about how you want your life to look. As God created such beauty and artistry, you have the chance to design a life of intentionality and delight. You can protect yourself from becoming sedated again by devices, and you can prioritize the wonders of God's creation, being specific and determining how you'll engage rather than letting devices decide for you. You can craft a life that embraces the delight that you were designed for. So this week is all about planning. Anybody like to plan? Any planners? I like to plan. I like to do all the things. So when we were in college, David and I were in college together, and our New Testament survey teacher on every quiz and every test put a question that said, get yourself a blank and make it your blank. And it was get yourself a schedule and make it your boss. Because if we don't schedule things, I don't know about you guys, I won't do them. The calendar just gets full, hours just pass, and the day is gone before I know it, or the week is gone before I know it. So if you skip page 107 and then go over, there's a page that looks like this, page 109. And it's really just a plan. This week, every day this week, plan something that you can do that brings you delight. So some of those things will be by yourself, that you can be alone with the Lord. Maybe it's a bubble bath, maybe it's a walk, maybe it's going to get coffee by yourself or whatever. But some of those things, I encourage you to invite someone to be with you. The more the merrier for some of these things. So maybe you plan a day this week with your family, like what is something that you guys like to do? And put it on the calendar and go do it and enjoy it. Maybe you like to ride go-karts. Maybe you like to go out to eat. Maybe, I don't know, whatever it is, but plan a time this week that you can do it. So every day try to come up with one thing that you really enjoy and then go do it. Another quote that has really stuck with me in just prepping for this was that this generation is the first generation that will graduate with more of other people's memories than memories of their own. Because we spend most of our time watching other people do things on our phone, which is really sad. We even watch videos of people playing video games instead of just playing the game and enjoying it. So that's the activity for tonight, is get with a group and just plan some stuff, to have fun, to laugh together, to enjoy the day, it's spring, and Columbia is beautiful right now. Everything is blooming. You might have to take some Claritin before you go enjoy it, but it is absolutely beautiful. And then if you get through with that and you've planned your things, you can turn over one more page, and it says to trace your hand on this page. And then in the shape of your hand, you're supposed to write down at least 10 traits that make you unique. Your personality, your looks, and your skills, and then reflect on how God designed you and meditate on the fact that He delights in you as His beloved creation. That you are valuable and that God loves to just be with you. So I hope that'll be encouraging to you, and I hope you guys come up with some fun things, and maybe next week you can share with us what you did, what you enjoy. Have a great week.